You're listening to Quiero Dinero, a personal finance podcast for the modern Latina. I'm your host, Janice Torres Rodriguez, and I'm here to help you be poderosa with your dinero. I'm a side hustle coach, an engineer, and a blogger that built a $50,000 side hustle, and I'm obsessed with all things personal finance. On this show, we're going to talk about how to make dinero, how to keep your dinero, and how to make it grow. Are you ready? Vámonos. Hola, mi gente. Welcome back to another episode of Yo Quiero Dinero, the podcast. This is your host, Janice. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited about today's episode. I feel like I say that about every episode, and feel free to call me out if I do. But the truth of the matter is that I am literally meeting so many amazing people by having this podcast and being able to share that with you. It's just the most rewarding thing ever. So today's episode is featuring Sarah Farzam. And she is actually the founder and CEO of Bilingual Birdies, which is a company that literally celebrates diversity. Sarah is half Mexican and half Iranian. She grew up in LA, and she started Bilingual Birdies in New York City in 2007 with 3 students. And she has grown it into a 21-city operation across the United States, Canada, and Australia, where bilingual educators license the program to start their own Bilingual Birdies business to share their language and culture with children while earning money. Her intention with her work in Bilingual Birdies is to create a space where children can increase their cross-cultural awareness and celebrate diversity. I mean, can we talk about how badass this woman sounds? And we haven't even gone into this conversation yet. Oh, wait until you guys hear the story of how Sarah literally built this business from the ground up. She is just a natural born hustler, and I think a lot of that actually has to do with her cultural background. But she's going to get into all of that and more. And then you can actually find out how you can start your own Bilingual Birdies business right from your house. Let's get into this episode with Sarah of Bilingual Birdies. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. First off, I'm so glad that you reached out to me to be on the podcast because your story is so interesting, and I cannot wait to dive in.
Hola, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share anything that would hopefully be of value to your listeners.
Absolutely. So why don't we go ahead and start off with you introducing yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sarah, and I'm the founder and CEO of Bilingual Birdies. We are a bilingual education program for young children up to the age of 6. We teach Spanish, French, Mandarin Chinese, and English. And it's all done through music, movement, dance, puppets. It's really, really fun. Bilingual educators go into preschools, or they lead caregiver and child classes, and licensees start their own Bilingual Birdies businesses. And it's really an awesome way to get started with entrepreneurship. Have a side hustle or have it be your primary source of income. So it's been really awesome. I started Bilingual Birdies in New York City when I was 24 years old. And it's been a while. That was 13 years ago. And we have really ignited a bilingual education movement. And so I look for other individuals who would like to do that and transform the communities that they live in.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you created a business that celebrates diversity. I don't think we see that enough. And so that is just super inspiring.
Oh, good. We need to be seeing more of it. Yes.
Yes,
So if
absolutely.
if people out there have ideas about those types of things, it always begins with an idea, right? So it's so
For
needed.
sure. So you have a really interesting background. So you're half Mexican, half Iranian, and you grew up in LA. So I can only imagine what growing up looks like with those cultures. Like I feel like they sound very different, but they have a lot in common. So I'm curious as to how your cultural background formed your relationship with money.
Oh, very interesting question. Yes. So my relationship with money was a very, very stressful one growing up. I was always wondering why there wasn't more of it. How do I get more of it? It was always like a struggle, right? It was always like a point of contention, definitely in the family. I was just, I had a job ever since I was 14. Like I had asked my parents like, oh, I want money, and they were like, okay, go work. And I'm like, no, but you need to be like 15 to get a job, like legally, like at the time, I guess, that's what you need to be. And they were like, no, that's okay. We'll go to the school and sign for you so you can get like a permit and you can start working earlier. And I was like, all right. So, I mean, for as long as I can remember, I always had 2 to 3 jobs. until I started Bilingual Birdies, and that ultimately became profitable and my primary source of income. But yeah, it was definitely very stressful. I think, I Iranian culture and Mexican culture are both so lovely. They have so many, both are such rich cultural heritages. They have so much love and culture and legacy. I think that dinner table conversation was not about how to make more money. It just
Hmm.
wasn't that financial literacy wasn't really a part of my parents upbringing. They moved to the States, from Mexico and Iran, and they came as students, and they really struggled. I mean, no language, no family, no money, no nothing, and they had to sort of figure things out as best as they could as immigrants. And I would say that they would say their greatest accomplishment is their two children, right? and
Hmm.
and it's really interesting because I come from a family that really knows nothing about business and sort of like investing or just how to stack cheese, right? And so it's really interesting how actually my brother and I have sort of changed the DNA of our family, because he's an entrepreneur too, and we managed to figure that piece out. So
That's
it's
really
yeah.
interesting. So, what do your parents do, or what did they do when they were working?
Yeah, so my mom worked in nonprofit her whole life. A good portion of the time, she was working in organizations, and then after a while, she started working in a retirement center. So she worked. I mean, she started off as like a secretary, right, and then she worked her way up to be an administrator of like an old age home, right?
Hmm.
And then my dad, he dabbled in entrepreneurship, right? And so he had a stationery store for a long time when I was a kid. And then eventually it actually went under because, the Staples and the Office Depots of the world opened up. And so
Hmm.
that was of course very difficult for small businesses to compete with. So, it's interesting because it's definitely like in our blood, Iranian culture. If it's our legacy, right? Iranian people, they were merchants and traders. And when I really think about how I grew up, like I grew up watching my dad negotiate at Rite Aid and being like, is this the best offer you can give me? And I was just
That's
like,
hysterical.
yeah, dad is not that type of place. But I feel like I really learned from him, how to sort of, make a deal and these types of things that are maybe I didn't learn from them exactly how to fill out an Excel spreadsheet and, like do bookkeeping and that types of things. But a lot of those, hardcore characteristic traits of being a good entrepreneur, I think, I took from my own cultural heritage. Mexican people are of the hardest working people on the planet, and
Hmm.
they're very much the backbone of our society here in the US. And I feel like I really inherited that from my mom and her mom, and just like a long lineage of a very strong work ethic. And so I would say that those types of things really influenced and informed my work today and the journey of entrepreneurship.
That is brilliant, and I love hearing those stories, and so thank you for sharing that. It's so true, like I don't think we realize until we're adults like the characteristics that our families built into us, and they lead to a lot of, the decisions that we make. So it sounds like, even though your dad he started a business that didn't necessarily flourish, like he taught you entrepreneurial skills that are serving you today, and that's awesome.
Absolutely. I would say so.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk through your career. I want to know, before you were a CEO of a company, like how did you get started? What was your career trajectory and what did that look like?
Yeah, so you name it, I had it. Like I had so many different jobs. Um, I was always from babysitting to I was working at Forever 21 as a cashier. Back then it was called Fashion 21. I
Mm,
I worked at a deli. I mean, I had so many jobs when I was in high school and junior high and high school. And then when I was in college, I was, a tutor, and I would, mentor kids, and then they would pay you something for that. And so, I would teach an after school program, hip hop dance classes. I was one of these girls that goes and dances at like bar and bat mitzvahs for rich people that have these like big blowout, like, like quinceañera type party for kids, Jewish kids' birthday. And I would like hype the crowd,
Yeah.
So then, of course, I moved to New York City, and I was teaching in a high school, and I
Mhm.
had no idea what New York was about. I grew up in LA, and I didn't realize how expensive it was.
Mm.
And so my brother lives and still does at that time lived in New York, and he has twins, two my twin nieces. So I'd sort of hang out with them a little bit here and there, and I just wasn't making enough money. So I was a high school teacher slash cocktail waitress, and I would basically work from early morning until 5 p.m. in the school, and then I would rush downtown to my second job and work 6:30 until 4 in the morning serving, bottles of
Wow.
service. And it was pre-recession and pre the other recession, and it was like 2007, 2006, and I just saved up as much money as I could because I was working two jobs, and I would go home, sleep for 3 4 hours, wake up, could do it again. And it was really intense. It was my early 20s, but when you're 24, you have so much energy, you can do that sort of thing. So I
Mhm.
really maximized the amount of hours. And then of course I couldn't tell my parents because they're super strict, and like they would not be cool with me, like being a cocktail waitress in New York City. So they would always ask me like, "Where are you? Why do you never answer the phone?" And I'd be like, "I'm in yoga." And they're like, "There's no way you could be in yoga this many hours a day." So I had to do what I had to do because I needed money. So I did that for about a year, and then I realized, this is not a sustainable lifestyle. This is not what I set out to do. I'm educated. I should be able to figure this out. And so I quit working in the high school because I basically made more money like in 1 week at the restaurant than I did in the entire month in teaching in high school, which is
Oh,
very
wow.
sad, and it's like ultimately that's the type of work I'd like to return to at some point. But I was really young at the time. I didn't have that much to offer. So I started thinking, what else can I do? And I would hang out with my twin nieces. Sunday was kind of like my only day off. I'd go to the parks with them, the playgrounds. And, if there's one characteristic that I feel I did take from my Iranian father, is that I'm not shy. Like, he will talk to
Mhm.
anyone. I will talk to a brick wall, no problem, full conversation, So I would just chat up all these moms on the park benches, and I'd be like, "Oh, what do you guys do?" And they would tell me, "Oh, we take our kids to these classes." And I'll never forget, this one woman told me she had her child enrolled in a different class every day of the week, Monday through Friday, and her kid was only 2 years old. And I was like, "What? Like, what is this about?" And she, "Oh, we have music class, we have cooking class, we have dance class, we have art class." And I was just like, "What is this world?" Like what? Like I started learning about this infant, toddler, preschool market, and that was
Mhm.
sort of the beginnings of my market research and surveying all these moms, finding out. So I went with my nieces to a class once. They were enrolled in like a music class, and it was pretty cool. It was like this American girl there singing, Bob Marley tunes and Madonna songs. And I was like, well, this is cute. But if you put language here, then it's educational entertainment, right? And I remember sitting there thinking, like, okay, they have 15 kids here, with their moms or their nannies or their dads or whatever. And, they each paid like 25 bucks to be here. These people probably rented the dance studio that we're in for like X amount of dollars an hour. They're probably paying the teacher like this much per hour. Like this is a pretty good business, like if subtract those hard costs, and that's awesome, So I thought, well, maybe I could do this and put Spanish, and like add a language. And so I was like, well, I guess I could just try. And then if it works, cool. And if it doesn't, I'll just get a job when I turn 25, like the rest of my friends, like just enter the working serious world.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how it led me into getting the idea, and like, from my past experience, I grew up in a very, multicultural home. We always would have these big parties where, we had one person would be telling jokes and another person would be singing, another person would play, an instrument, and, someone else would recite poetry. And it was just, a very definitely, full, lively kind of like entertainment every week in the house.
Mhm.
So I just knew I wanted to pull from, again, that cultural heritage, those experiences I had with a very beautiful upbringing, and share my languages and cultures with other families, right? I thought, well, if it worked for me, like it should probably work for them too, right?
Yeah, that's a great setup for what we're going to talk about now. So it sounds like your nieces had a lot to do with kind of the inspiration, but who actually like pushed you over the edge to be like, I need to do this and I need to do it now. So, and then we'll get into kind of what that first dip of your toes into entrepreneurship looked like.
Yes, dip of your toes, like jumping into the like flamed hoop of
Yeah.
the unknown. Yeah. So I had the idea after I went to that class with my nieces. They were definitely, like you said, the inspiration behind just this early childhood world. And I thought, oh, this could be cool. So I wrote down the idea, and I went home to LA like the next week to visit my parents. And I was explaining the whole idea to my mom. And she was like, I mean, you have to understand, like my parents are immigrants. Like my mom she's not from Mexico City or anything like that. She comes from a small town in Sonora, the north of Mexico. And she moved to this country, like everybody, with hopes and dreams and aspirations for a better future. Right. And so they always
Hmm.
wanted to do something, and like of their own that could be really big. And of course it's hard, right? And so when I explained the idea to her, she just looked me dead in the eyes and was like, you are going to do this. Like, I don't know how, I don't know where we're going to get the money from. And I was like, I have the money because I've been waiting tables that you don't know about. So like, we're going to figure this thing out. And she was just like, you are going to do this. And I remember feeling like, am I going to do this? Like, I guess
Yeah.
I am going to do this. Like, she
You
believes in
said it
me. Yeah.
now.
Like,
So,
so now we got to get to doing this. So,
right.
it's that moment when just someone shows you that they really truly believe in you. And I think that is just a magical moment, and,
Hmm.
to kind of, for the flip to switch and click on, and you get it. It's just like, oh yeah, now that she said it, this is going down. So I'm going to try my
Yeah,
best. And I feel like that helps you to believe in yourself, of course. So it was
absolutely.
really like my mother's conviction, that helped me to see that, yes, si se puede, I can do it.
I love that. Kudos to mom. Shout
Yeah.
out, mom. You're the reason why this is happening. This is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so take us through that first, year of your journey starting this company. What did that look like?
So it was very difficult. And these days on Instagram, you see people making it seem like they threw it together or on a nickel and it just was so easy. And I would guess that that's just a filter. It
Mhm.
was very difficult. I had no hard skills on entrepreneurship. Like I didn't know, how to really be organized. I didn't know about money. I didn't know about bookkeeping. I didn't know about, like I said, Excel spreadsheets and things like that. I didn't really know how to do those kinds of things. But I feel I was like a natural born hustler. So I went and printed 5,000 flyers from a printing place in Queens, New York. And I carried it on the subway back to my apartment. And I basically would hit the park every single day. And I would go to the park and playgrounds like all over Manhattan. And I would just go up to moms and nannies and dads and chat them. And I'd be like, oh, wait, before that, I went and found a dance studio in Soho. And I asked if I could rent the room, like the space by the hour. And they were like, yeah, sure, you could rent the space by the hour. Like it was a salsa studio. They were like, we have all the classes at night. So there's nothing going on here in the morning. So I was like, cool.
Mhm.
How much do you want an hour? And they were like, how about 100? And I was like, how about 25? And the guy was like, all right, cool. And he was like, sure, here's the key. Do what you want. And I was like, great. So then I went and printed the flyers. I put their address down. I had a friend of mine from college sort of draw like a logo. I was like, I want three little birds like on a wire. It's going to be called Bilingual Birdies. So she drew it for me. I paid her $150 for the logo. And then that was it. I printed these flyers. I went to the park every single day for 3 months. I passed out all 5,000 flyers. So, I mean, I talked to so many people just like hanging out on park benches, like, oh, you're from Mexico? No way. What part? Oh, cool. My mom's from here. Great. Like, I mean, chatting these people up, inviting them to a class. And on the first day, one kid showed up, and my
Mm.
twin nieces. So it looked like a little bit full because they're like twins. And I was like, wait, what? What is this? Like I thought I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna be like rich, like that class, like with the kids that I had gone to, had like 15 kids in there. And I had one
Mhm.
kid and I was just very confused. So luckily she signed up, the mom signed up, because obviously my twin nieces were non-paying customers. And then,
Right.
you know, um, I was really excited. I took that check for like 125 bucks and I went to Chase Bank and I was like, hi, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to open a business bank account. And they were like, do you have a tax ID number? Do you have like EIN? Are you registered? And I was just like, what, huh? Like, what is all that? And they're like, all right, kid, you need to go down to City Hall and like figure all this stuff out. And, this was all like pre Instagram, like pre Facebook. I
Mhm.
think Facebook was just getting started. So it's not like I could, take ads out or like, it was just analog version, like pound the pavement, just chat people.
Right.
So it was hard, and then slowly people started inviting us to well, us. It was like I was teaching these classes, and by the way, I'm not a singer. I'm not very musical. Like Spanish actually is not my first language.
Mhm.
So they were not very good. Like my brother, when he saw that one lady signed up, he was like, yo, people will pay for anything. Like, and I was
Wow, the shade. Oh my god.
yeah, I was like, okay. So it was, I quickly, put an ad on Craigslist and like look for someone who is bilingual and, a little bit musical, loves children. And I found this girl, Margaret from Colombia, and she has since become one of my best friends. But she started teaching the classes. I would show her what we did and what I did. And then I would try and go and get like gigs in preschools, and I'd be like, all right, so like we could come here and do 30-minute classes. The moms actually recommended us, like, hey, why don't you come to like our kids school? And I was like, okay. And so that was cool because they would pay us like a flat rate for our time, and I didn't have to go and search for children in the parks every day. So
Mhm.
then we started ramping up to offer other services, and today we teach thousands of children per week between 21 cities across the US, Canada, and Australia, via our licensing program, where anyone in the world who's bilingual, if you live in Houston, if you live in DC, if you live in the Bay Area, like wherever you live, if you're bilingual and you speak Spanish, French, or Mandarin Chinese or English, and you love children and you want to share your language and culture with kids by teaching, you can earn money from home. And right now that is of course COVID. It used to be $1,000 upfront to start, but we've eliminated that, so it's zero upfront to start, and it's just $75 a month. And we give you your own website, your own training on the methodology, business boot camp, all the marketing materials that you need to succeed, your own classroom kit of instruments, maracas and puppets and drums and everything you need to engage the kids. And then every month we send you new themed curriculum. So it's really cool because, like, let's say you're Sally and you live in Dallas and you're bilingual and you speak Spanish and you just got laid off from your preschool job, and you're one of the 40 million people who've been laid off in the US, and you're thinking what to do. You can get trained online to start your own bilingual birdies business for 75 bucks a month and make money.
Mm.
And
That's amazing.
I really believe in entrepreneurship. I mean, it has given me, bilingual birdies has given my life so much purpose and financial freedom and all that stuff that I never thought. Like, let's put it this way: I didn't think I was going to make it this far. I've already
Mhm.
surpassed so much of my greatest dreams, and I would love to give that opportunity to other people. Now it's my honor to share that knowledge, because I know how hard it is when you don't have any infrastructure and you don't have any guidance. I mean, I was going to the bank and being like, do you guys know, like, how do you sell things? And they were like, kid, get a mentor. Like, what is, like, get help, And I was just like, I don't know anybody who knows how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that's a very common story for first gen, right? A lot of us are like the first ones to be doing a lot of different things, including starting businesses, getting higher education, just getting access to levels of wealth and information that previous generations just didn't have. So I'm curious, as someone who now is the CEO of a company who's financially independent thanks to this company, like when did you know that this was going to be like your full-time thing? How long did that process take?
It took some time. I never really thought like, oh, this is going to be a big business. I just thought I didn't even think I was going to hire people. Like my mind didn't work in those ways. In the beginning, I just thought this will be a fun thing to do. It's music, it's language, it's children, it's education, it's like alternative types of learning. I'm into all that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then someone forwarded me like an email to take this free entrepreneurship program at the Harlem YMCA, and it was through the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh, this is cool. It was like sponsored by Lenovo Computers, and I was like, what is this? So I went and applied, and I got into the program, and it was like other young people in their 20s who had an idea that or had recently started, and it was basically entrepreneurship training. And then it was a business plan competition at the end, and someone wins, right? And so it's like I've never won anything before. I was always like on that girl trying to get like the Janet Jackson concert tickets, like on like, calling the
The
radio station.
radio.
It was like lost again, like are things going to turn up around here? And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
like I never thought I would win. And it was a very interesting thing to sort of get this training. Just as I always say, as a violinist would train 8 hours a day, to perfect her art form, of being a musician, right? And being a violinist, that takes practice. Like being a good business person also takes practice. You have to train in how to do that. And I really think, being a good businesswoman is an art form, right? So I
Mm.
took this class, and then I won the business plan competition. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. They gave me $20,000 and my own office space and a
Wow.
computer. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is so exciting. And so it was a 5-year business plan that I had to write. And that's when it sort of clicked for me that, oh, wait, I think I actually can do this,
Mm-hmm.
and grow this company, right? Because one thing is to start a business, another thing is to grow a business. Both very difficult,
Facts.
in their own
Mm-hmm.
way. Humans, we always kind of want to take it to the next level, right? Um, but that was kind of, that in that entrepreneurship training is where I sort of realized, what was
Yeah.
up.
When I decided I wanted to launch a podcast, I have to admit I had no idea where I was going to start. That is until I found Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It gives you everything you need all in one place for free, and you can use it right from your phone or computer. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. And get this, they'll even help you distribute your podcast so it can be heard everywhere like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Isn't that freaking awesome? I mean, what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Okay, so I'm curious. What struggles have you faced while building a business as a first gen woman of color? And what are some limiting beliefs that you face and how have you overcome them?
I'm like, how much time do you have? you know? Okay. So I will start here. I truly believe that one of the biggest cancers to society is the phrase, I'm not good enough.
Mm,
And when you start to have that as a part of your internal dialogue and believe it, very large problems can start to create, right, manifest right in front of your face. And so, I mean, look, I grew up, half Mexican, half Iranian girl in the Valley, San Fernando Valley here in LA, and we basically, moved to this neighborhood when I was like 6, and um, it's a pretty much all white neighborhood where I lived at that time. Now we're coming up, but at that time it was, we were like the ethnic family on the block, and like nobody understood us. And, like my dad has a hardcore accent, and like we look different from them. And I just always sort of felt like I could never quite catch up to like all these beautiful blonde, blue-eyed girls that, the like Courtney McDonald's of the world. And I was just like, like, what is this? Like, I will never
mm-hmm,
be as smart enough, as cool enough, as rich enough, as
mm,
as these people. And I started to believe that. And the mind is a very powerful thing. So it took a lot of work on myself over the years, through therapy and through meditation and through writing. And Zumba classes, a deep, deep introspection into my own cultural heritage, and really celebrating all the gifts and the value of who I am and where I come from, right? To sort of
Mm-hmm.
reverse all of that. And as a first generation woman of color entrepreneur, you're bringing so much to the table. And
Yeah.
I think it was really worth the investment of time to go deep and figure out, like, how did this all come to be, like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the story here, what are all the stories, of sort of overcoming obstacles and powering through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, just over the years, as those breakthroughs started to happen for me, it was an extremely, liberating and empowering, you know um, thing for me to understand. So I feel like, it's if there are other girls out there who sort of feel like maybe they're a little bit different or don't quite belong, or I feel a lot of people feel like that, like,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Latinx community. You if you go back enough generations, you don't, you come from somewhere else, right? And so it's like,
Right.
I would encourage people to really fully understand the value of all the strengths involved in your lineage, right? Because even if nobody else looks like you, you want to do this thing, and you have not seen anybody else doing it who looks like you have to be your own role model, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I didn't grow up seeing any girls who looked like me, like crushing it in their own, like, cool, like, social enterprise business. Like, I didn't have access to that.
Yeah.
So I feel like so much of my motivation today is, I mean, look at what's going on with everything right now. I mean, Black Lives Matter movement, and my heart aches for the Black community. And I think about my Afro Latina friends, and just how much you have to power through. I mean, and like, the messages coming at us are all like, you can't do this. Like, this isn't for you.
Mm.
This is for them. I mean, if you just think about, the ICE detention centers, like, they're literally like locking up children just because of
Yeah.
who they are and where they come from and what language they speak. Like, it makes no sense. And I think that when I think about, like, I got to keep doing this. It's like, I've been doing this for 13 years, and it's like, I keep doing it. Look, it's a business. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not about making money. You have to make money. It's a
Mm-hmm.
business, right? But I do all this for my brothers and sisters that don't have a chance to do it, and for those who are feeling like, I kind of want to do this, but I don't know if I can. Yes, you can. Like, I'm doing it, and I had zero information about how to make it happen, and I figured it out, and you will figure it out too.
I love that message. I think it resonates so much with me, and I think a lot of our listeners, because it goes back to this idea, right? Where it's so hard to imagine yourself doing something if you don't have examples, but you can be that example. And I think you are serving as that. So that's awesome.
No, thanks.
All right. So I'm curious because, like you said, you've been doing this for 13 years. So there must be some lessons that you have learned about entrepreneurship along the way. And I'm curious if you'd share some of those lessons.
Oh, yes. So something that took me a little bit of time to really fully comprehend with every cell in my body to get is, todo es temporal, right? It's
Mm,
Everything is temporary. You get into a situation and you're just like, this is the end. Oh my God, how did this happen? What are we going to do? This is just so much messier than I thought. And you're crying and dying, and you're like, this is terrible. Why did I ever start this? It will pass. It will pass. That thing will
mm-hmm.
go on to the
Yeah,
next, and then the next problem will come. Get excited, because then you got one more under your belt. So I feel
absolutely.
like it's really important to remember that. And then also, I would say another one is just, everything matters. I don't know how it works in some weird way, and this is sort of maybe a little more of like a spiritual way of thinking or something, but I really believe everything you do matters. Even if it's small, even if nobody sees it, it does matter. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it will make an effect. So I tried to remind myself that, behind closed doors, when we're in the office and trying to figure out, problems that occur or whatever, how to, secure things up, I really try to put that diligence and mindfulness and care into the work that I do, because it's important. In the end, it's young children. We serve mainly preschool age children. And I feel like, if we're drawing vocabulary sheets, right? And these are all the farm animals, and this is, your body parts, head, shoulders. Okay, well, let's draw the body parts. Maybe let's make that shade of color darker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It does matter, like we're giving this to children in front of them. Why does it all have to be like one standard way that we've seen for generations, like in books and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, those little details, like I really feel are important. I would say another one is fail fast. Fail fast. Don't be afraid of failing. I mean, I have failed so much over the years, and people love to talk about their successes, and everybody loves talking about like how cool they are and what amazing accomplishments they've made. But I can tell you that I have failed, every year of those 13 really, really well. And a lot of them, like I would say, you feel ashamed when you fail, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I let this happen, but fail fast, make it happen. There's so much to learn from when we make these failures, and it will only make you stronger. I think in the beginning, I used to buy like the maracas and all the instruments for the children that we provide from like, like a cheap website, like that
Mm-hmm.
was all I could afford, right? And so we would hand them out in the class, and everybody's singing, "Hola, hola, cómo estás? Muy bien." Or we're teaching Spanish, and everyone's jamming and rocking, and I just see this little kid with like a little shaker, and it just like broke in her mouth. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so terrible. This looks horrible, And I was just like, okay, like this is quite, and of course the mom's pissed. Like it looks like she's choking on the little pellets that were inside
Oh
of the
my
maraca.
God.
And I'm like, this is miserable. Like this baby is gonna be here like having problems like because of me, and it's just okay, I messed up. Like I didn't know, you know what I mean? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I took that experience and I reviewed, and I made sure that the systems were in place for us to never purchase items from that website again, and to
Mm.
really buy like quality musician style, instruments for the kids. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it's like those details matter. You respect the children. This is important work that we're doing. It's not just like patty cake, like happy, whatever. Like we're trying to set kids on the right path for the rest of their lives, to really embrace diversity and celebrate diversity instead of reject it, so that by the time they get to kindergarten and they're maybe sitting next to somebody who speaks Spanish or Chinese, it's like they're not going to be like ew gross. They're going to be like, oh awesome, I know all the colors and I know how to count, and I know all the farm animals in Mandarin Chinese. That's so cool. I learned that in preschool, to
Mm-hmm.
just really celebrate that. So I those failures, it's okay, no one's going to remember. People are so busy in their day to day, just learn from it, put the systems in place to ensure that it will never happen again. And then, in a month or so, go back and review and reevaluate, and just, keep tabs on it, and it will help you get better. If you get 1% better every day, just think after a whole year, you're 365% better than you were last year. Like that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the things that a lot of my listeners are pursuing is financial freedom. So, I'm curious, what does financial freedom look like for you?
I think financial freedom is owning your own time.
Mm-hmm.
Time is money, right?
Right.
Time is money. And what, how do you measure? I once remember a friend of mine, he owns successful restaurants in Brooklyn, Bogota Latin Bistro, and he's actually half Greek and half Colombian. And so it's really cool. He has like all these restaurants, and he told me like, I measure my success, and my financial freedom by how many times I can go to the movies every month, because I love going to the movies. So if I don't have time to go to the movies, I'm not working correctly. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, that's so interesting, And I remember when I first got started with my business, I love traveling. Like I had a little bit of cash in the beginning, so I would like pump out these trips to like Mexico and go to the beach and hang out. And a lot of my friends would be like, what's up? Like, do you even work? Like, what is this? Like, and I would be like, yeah, I work. Like, what are you talking about? Like, some people work for the money, and some people make their money work for them, and
Mm.
I'm trying to make my money work for me. And that's my right if I want to go to the beach and lay up, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
I have to put the pieces in place to ensure that I'm making money while that's happening. You know what I mean? And that's it. If people want to judge, let them judge. Like, I'll be busy on the
Right.
beach, So,
They're not
you
the
know,
ones that saw you working like 19-hour days to, create a cushion where you could even start this business so they can shut
yeah,
the hell up.
exactly. Like it's like, you are the one that takes that initial risk and all the stress of starting a business. That jump into entrepreneurship is not for everybody, It's
Mhm.
not for nothing. I don't want to take anything away from hardworking people who have jobs, because entrepreneurs need people like that to succeed as well, Everybody
Mhm.
sort of has this place in this amazing world, But it's one of those things where, for me, owning my own time, I think also, I don't have kids yet, but a lot of, for moms, from what I've heard, time becomes a very, scarce, limited asset in your life when you start to
Mhm.
have kids. And I just think that, something like, having your own business, for me, having bilingual is like, when I have kids, like, it will be great because, first of all, it's like a kid business. And then second of all, like, I can make sure that I manage my time and work effectively when I have the time to do it, and if I want to have more time with my kids, I'll set up my business in a way that will afford me to do that. And I just think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. It really is a pathway to one of the pathways to financial freedom, to just have
Yeah.
more time to live your life.
I love that. Such great advice. All right, so let's get into more advice because you have so much to share. So, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start a business but they have no idea where to start? I hear from so many people that they're just like, "Yeah, I want to do something, but I don't even know like what is needed or what I'm passionate about." So, how would you advise someone to kind of go about that process?
Sure, sure. I think if you want to start a business right now, in this year of 2020 that we are all living, which will inevitably go down as one of the most intense years in the 21st century, right?
Mhm.
Sit down and have a good long think about what is missing around you. What job is missing around you that doesn't exist, and I would go out and create that job for yourself. There is so much work that needs to be done. There are, it's just so much work that needs to be done, and I think that if you can manage to think of something that will sustain your attention for at least 5 years, because it does take time to start to build a business, right? There's always like a ramp up period, a year, 6 months, who knows. And then things will go wrong, right, like along the way. And I think if you can sort of manage to overcome two scenarios, I think you'll be very successful. One is when everything goes wrong and everything around you falls. If you can power through to just keep putting one foot in front of the other,
Mhm.
that is awesome. And the other one is, at some point you will get bored. I think it
Mhm.
happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. Every business, at some point you will get bored. You will not care about getting one more school. You will not care about getting like more money. You will not care about like all these things that you got to figure out. You will just get kind of like disengaged a bit. And I think if you can power through and find a way to innovate in those times, and to really sort of like rethink how you're going to get engaged back into the business, you will be very successful. Um, but yeah, and listen to other people's stories. What helped a lot for me was, listening to like this, like listening to podcasts like your own,
Mhm.
like yours, and understanding other people's stories. If you listen to enough case studies of other people building their businesses, eventually you realize, oh, like I can do this, like I felt what they've felt before. And just, I would say the last thing is daily um motivation, like daily self motivation. Whatever you got to do. If you have to get up and write down 15 times a day, si se puede, I can do this. I believe in myself. Yo puedo pagar la renta. Yo puedo hacer esto. I can make it happen. Like whatever you got to do, and put a sign in front of your mirror every morning when you brush your teeth and you're looking at this thing that says like, yes, you can. Eventually you will get that you can do it. But
Mhm.
whatever sort of, modalities that you use to help yourself get up and stay up, I think is really, really important. Because, even for all these entrepreneurship classes that I've taken, everything, in the end, I realized you can sort of farm out all the skills, like, bookkeeping and marketing and branding and things like this. But what is the most important thing is to have that inner dialogue be very strong, where you understand you can keep pushing forward. So I would invest time and getting that under wraps and really just, fully comprehending that you can keep going even when it gets difficult.
Hmm. Yeah, that's excellent advice. And it reminds me of a friend that I have who she wakes up 2 hours before her normal 9 to 5 to put in those hours to build her own business. So it's like doing those small incremental things to take it to the next level. That's what's required of entrepreneurship, right? It doesn't just happen. Like, I don't think anybody becomes an accidental entrepreneur. You're just passionate about this idea and you figure out along the way how to monetize it and how to grow it and how to just organize it in a way that it actually becomes a business.
Absolutely. I mean, anybody can think of an idea and just sort of give it a whirl, but like that's hot, right? Like it's great, but
Mhm.
to have a legacy and build something that's going to grow and in entrepreneurship is really a beautiful thing, and it's the journey of that, how much you'll learn and how much you can contribute. Hopefully there's some, social enterprise sort of attached to it in some way, give back program, like you can transform your entire community. I think that's so cool. Like for us in Bilingual Birdies, like we've done a lot of things where we'll have a program where we teach English to new immigrant families. So we do the whole
Mm,
bilingual birdies approach, but it's free classes for kids to and their moms to learn English, right? So we did that for a while. We have volunteered in senior centers, right, where we do bilingual birdies with the seniors that they want to, learn English, like and
mhm,
predominantly like Latinx community, right? We've done even a program where we went to Kenya and we worked in a preschool there and did sort of like a cultural exchange. Their preschool teachers showed us what they do with the kids. We showed them what we do with the kids. We did classes and concerts and really, built this super beautiful connection with the school there. And we sponsor the children now, a couple of the kids. So it's really, I think whatever you think is missing, go out, take a review. Now we have the time to sort of do that, hopefully, and make it happen. Whatever you believe is missing.
I love that advice. And I love what you touched on about the social responsibility aspect of things because it's more than just about making money, right? Like, you, at some point, the money doesn't even matter. And you would do the work for free if you really are passionate about it. So I think it's important to know that just the desire to make money is not what's going to sustain you as an entrepreneur. You have to be passionate about what you're doing and the impact that it's going to have.
In my experience, that's exactly right. The money will usually come.
Mhm.
When you are, if you believe in yourself and you're super passionate about what you're doing, it sells it every time.
Yeah.
The money will come naturally. Like people see that spark in your eye and they're just like, wow, like this girl's going for it, And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I will forever hold the flag for children and diversity. Like let's make it happen,
Mhm.
So yeah, I would
Yeah.
say to look into that.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm curious, what is your money mantra?
My money mantra is that money is one of my best friends.
That's awesome.
I, here and now, okay? I treat it with respect and kindness, just as you would one of your best friends. I don't use it or abuse it. I'm very thankful to it when it's there for me. I try to make sure that our time lasts very long with each other.
That's fantastic. I think I might have to steal that from you, just full disclosure.
It's all yours. Yeah.
That's great. All right. So, for anybody who's listened to this episode and has been sparked by the entrepreneurship bug and wants to find out more about bilingual birdies or even find out more about you, where can we find you?
Yes, if you are bilingual and you speak Spanish, French, or Mandarin Chinese or English, and you would like to share your language and culture to teach kids, um, then you can start your own bilingual birdies and start earning money from home, even by doing classes online. So the website is bilingualbirdies.com/license. And there you can see the application process and check it out. We ask for a little audition video where you have to sing Wheels on the Bus in Spanish and teach a few key words in a fun musical way. And then, hopefully you get approved and then you basically start paying 75 bucks a month and you can have your own business, your own bilingual birdies business for 75 bucks a month. There's a $100 application fee so we can run your background check. And then that's it.
Hmm.
It's really cool. If you want to check us out on Instagram, you can do that. It's at bilingual_birdies. And my personal one is Farzam Sita. That's FARZAMCITA. And I would say follow the Bilingual Birdies one because we post really cool videos, and especially right now, a lot of resources for raising children, given everything that is going on and has been going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, and just really how to ensure anti-racism in the home. And, celebrating diversity and multiculturalism is great. That's a start. We really need to push ourselves to go further than that. So please do look into those things. If you have kids and would like to join some of our classes, you can go to bilingualbirdies.com/Zoom. And we are teaching online classes every week, which are super fun. And I would love to hear from any of you that have stories of, entrepreneurship, or kind of, you're on the tipping point of taking that jump into the world of entrepreneurship.
This is awesome. I am so thankful for your time. I thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And I love that you have built a business that celebrates diversity. I think more than ever, people are kind of looking for those businesses. They want to invest their dollars in businesses that just, are anti, I guess, the traditional, just like it's about them and versus us. And so I love everything that you're doing. And I can't wait for everybody to hear this episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I really hope you guys love this story. I think Sarah is the perfect example of somebody who may have been lacking the financial capability to start a business, but she made up with that in hustle. She worked her ass off. She built this business from the ground up. And the most important part of this whole thing is that she believed in herself. And sometimes that's all you need to take an idea from your mind and make it a business, right? So many times we have these like mental blocks, and we're convinced that we don't have anything to offer to the world, and that nobody's going to pay us for our skills, and who the hell are we to even start a business? And I just love Sarah's story. I hope that you guys found this super inspiring. And if you have a business idea that's in your head that you want to bring out and share with the world, I totally encourage you to do it, because we have one life here on this planet. And what is the point of not living your entire best life by sharing your skills and your passions with the world? If you want to find out more about Bilingual Birdies, head over to bilingualbirdies.com, and you can find out how to set up your own Bilingual Birdies business. And if you're interested in learning more about entrepreneurship and how you can start building your own business, be sure to join me as I will be participating in Finances en Fuego 2, a 5-day long summit where Latinas who own businesses will be talking about everything from how to go from idea to execution, how to organize your business finances, how to deal with taxes, retirement, health insurance, and even how to use YouTube to build your brand. I can't wait to spend some time with everybody who's registered, and it's not too late to register. If you want to get your tickets, please head over to wanderonwards.co/fuego-2 to get your tickets now. When you purchase your ticket, you will have access to the replays for life. So don't worry if you can't attend the live sessions. You'll have unlimited access to all of the replays. If you're loving this podcast, please make sure to share, rate, review, and subscribe. And please make sure to let everybody you know and love know about this podcast. The only way we're going to start moving the needle and getting financial literacy to everybody that needs it is by sharing podcasts like this one. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, stay entrepreneurial, stay innovative, stay inspired, and stay poderosa. On the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast and associated entities, all information provided is for general information purposes only and does not constitute accounting, legal, tax, or other professional advice. Listeners should not act upon the content or information found here without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional. We assume no responsibility for information contained on this podcast and associated entities and disclaim all liability with respect to such information, including but not limited to any liability for errors, inaccuracies, omissions, or misleading or defamatory statements. Usage of this podcast and associated content constitutes an explicit understanding and acceptance of the terms of this disclaimer.